Sheriff.
Well, good afternoon. Walton County Sheriff Mike Adkinson, along with our trusty public information officers, our dedicated staff, Miss Lindsay Darby and Miss Corey DeBridnia, and this is the Sheriff Live. For those of you who don't know, this is Walton County, Florida. We're halfway between Pensacola and Tallahassee in the Florida Panhandle. We run from the Alabama line unto the Gulf of Mexico, and the Walton County Sheriff's Office is a full-service operation and then some. So this is kind of our bi-monthly. We try to do this twice a month, where we talk to my bosses, the citizens of Walton County, and we try to answer questions about things that are going on locally, issues that concern people, but also we'll talk about anything nationwide, really answer any question you have. We don't always guarantee, well, two things. One, I can't guarantee you'll like the answer. That's A. B, I can't always guarantee that I'll know the answer, but I do know how to run it down and find it. So if you have a question, we certainly want to hear from you, and we'll do our best to give you a cogent answer that is clear and concise, and maybe we'll learn something along the way too. Been a lot of things going on since the last time we've been on air. Corey, what do you want to start with?
Well, I think where we need to start is where the agency is right now, and what we're focusing on right now is spring break. Yeah,
obviously it's that time of year. It's busy. It comes as no surprise. I always tell everybody, somebody goes, well, the traffic's bad. Well, it's going to be bad. Going to be crowds. I mean, this is that time of year from about the first week of March through about the second week of April. We'll just be inundated with visitors. A lot of folks working. You're going to see a lot of deputy sheriffs, a lot of people in uniform. We're running mandatory overtime throughout the agency, so pretty much everybody's out there. We got people on bike patrol. We've got people on foot patrol. We have people on their vehicles, and so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of staff out. And, we'll do our best to manage it. What I always say is we want people to come and respect our home like they would their home, right? And that's the bottom line there. So,
yeah,
good first week in the book so far. We had about 700 and something traffic stops, I think, in the first 4 days, give or take, 700 plus traffic stops. Yeah, about 10 or 11 arrests, give or take, for spring break type issues. So pretty busy across the board, but by and large, the crowds have been manageable, and we're expecting it to be busier this next couple of weeks. This next week will be really big, check-in, check-out Saturday. So here's your tip if you just moved to the south end of Walton County, particularly if you're moving in here, buy your groceries before Saturday. Don't try and be on the road Saturday. It's going to be crazy hectic. And we'll get people all the time say, well, why don't you turn this light green and let me out, because it's long traffic. The problem is all these lights are synced, and when you do that, if you don't do it for every light, you just move the problem down the line. So we are aware of it, but we try to balance that.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of staff out working, a lot of folks out working right now.
Yeah. What's your approach right now? You always say let the green be seen. Like,
sure.
Why is it important to do increased traffic and have more deputies out?
Well, so traffic is a part of it, right? Traffic is really the most dangerous thing right up front. That's the thing we concern ourselves with first, just because of the potential for injury. So we always watch that. I think I was telling somebody the other day, I think I've personally broken up or arrested 2 or 3 people in the last 4 months in road rage instances. Excuse me, I can't speak, on Highway 98. And that tells you something. It tells you about people's level of frustration and just the level of traffic on the roadway. So we're trying to deal with that as a primary issue, but we're also worried about our quality of life stuff. Our crowds running around, our loud music, things of that nature. All these things are important for the people that live down here. So, yeah, it's a lot going on, and really all those vehicles are coming through the north end of the county. So we have to make sure that we manage that. The cutoffs that come through Mossy Head or come down through 83, and
that was my next question.
Yeah, it's a busy time.
Where are we focusing those efforts? It's not just in the south end.
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, we pretty much have everybody we have working over the next 6 weeks. We're canceling days off and canceling leave so that people are prepared, and we have folks. We don't know exactly what the crowds will look like until they get here, and that's always a challenge, right? It changes from year to year, but typically what we're going to see is a younger crowd with us. The 13 and 14-year-olds actually are what cause issues for people, because 13 and 14 and 15-year-olds are loud, especially when they're in flocks like geese, right? So that seems to be one of the biggest problems. A lot of people simply don't like the fact there's a bunch of them. But that's, we always say that just because you don't like it doesn't make it illegal, and doesn't necessarily make it a problem, other than it's a crowd. So we're just trying to manage both those things.
Yeah. The second thing we probably should talk about is the fact that we are on the brink of spring break season, but we have other things going on in the county too.
Right?
It's not just spring break happening.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We've had some good arrests lately. We actually picked up a homicide suspect out of South Florida.
Yeah, out of Fort Lauderdale, I believe. We had a murder suspect that was stopped on 98, close to 393, and of course, that was our second murder suspect on 98. We caught one a couple months ago, around 283 and 98. Wanted out of Georgia for murder, so that's the second homicide suspect in the last probably 3 months caught down there. During that same time, there was a pretty lengthy high-speed pursuit involving some thugs out of Okaloosa County that we ended up chasing, and there's some kind of funny videos on the internet if you want to watch them. You can Google them. We're not going to put them up here, but of them running from our deputies on the north end, we were able to run those down, catch them, and solve that. But it's that's dangerous when they run like that. And we have to be careful with the public. And
that was up off Highway 90.
Yeah, that was up off Highway 90 outside of Defuniak Springs, and then we had a robbery down, an armed robbery in Mossy Head, and we were able to make an arrest on that. So we're very pleased with the work being done there. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people ask about. We had a guy we arrested out of Freeport, where the guy it was the result of some long-term vice narcotics investigations. But I think a lot of people were surprised because he had fentanyl up his body cavity when we got to the jail. That's actually not really shocking to us. We kind of deal with that, unfortunately, fairly regularly.
Sure.
But I think for a lot of people, we're surprised, and that's just something maybe they're not used to seeing. I understand in polite society that's not something, but desperate people and criminals do all kinds of crazy things. So
for sure. Deborah Lee McCormick says hello. Bill Keys says, what in the world is going on with the investigation of the break-in at the home in Watercolor? I believe they're talking about the incident from last year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at this point, you're a year later, and we're pretty thankful that there was no real damage to the home. That was obviously good, and that there was not a whole lot of stuff stolen. I think there was a purse and a pair of flip-flops stolen out of the house. So we were glad from a purely financial standpoint that the house wasn't damaged like that. And they're still trying to work it, but we have a lot of crimes that rise to a higher level than that take priority over that. We're still trying to work that. We've asked for some follow-up information. I know the state's attorney's office and the investigators talked about it in the last week or two. So I think they were waiting. The last I heard on that particular incident was they were waiting on some information back from the victim. So I'm not sure from that point.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we just had a shooting, an officer-involved shooting that unfortunately where two deputy sheriffs were forced to, ended up having to kill a man in Miramar that
was in November.
That was back in November. That is officially
year.
cleared. The state's attorney's office releasing that, a press release that shooting was appropriate. And of course, we knew that from the start, but we're certainly glad to Ms. Madden's office for putting that official stamp and coordinating with FDLE on that. The other officer-involved shooting, which was actually the same night as they were talking about the party. That's why in my hierarchy of things, the shooting was like a lot more important than that. So, but that shooting was also cleared as well. And unfortunately, that was a situation where you had, a whole bunch of rounds fired.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of rounds fired. And we're very lucky.
During a 60-plus mile pursuit.
Yeah, and we're very lucky. Very lucky that nobody was killed. Obviously, the bad guy was shot, but he actually survived. We'll stand trial for that. And of course, that's obviously a life felony as well.
Yeah. And that all was started off. The catalyst for that was what we thought was a armed robbery.
Yeah, well, it was originally staged to like an armed robbery. So
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, throwing $30,000 out the window
on Interstate 10. Very interesting chain of events.
Sure.
Angela Sears says, awesome. I think she was talking about our spring break effort. Kristen Lewis, who do we need to contact to get lights at 393 and 98, Small Mart 98, recalibrated for high season? The traffic is not typical.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And plus, you have construction going along with that, which makes it even more difficult. We try to notify DOT. That's ultimately their decision. It's the state DOT actually runs that. But we always ask them to consider just the amount of traffic. So if you don't know this, the average daily population for the south end of Walton County, really the county as a whole, the average daily population is now going to bump about 290,000 people a day from now till about, give or take, Labor Day.
Yeah.
So
And
that will tell you kind of what we're dealing with.
And the challenge for us is that population that fluctuates every week.
Yeah, it fluctuates weekly, obviously.
Yeah. So once we kind of get them tuned in.
Yeah. Once you're learning one thing, then the next group is coming in, and maybe
Sure.
they've been here for a minute. It's the challenge we run into with the flags. We lost a young man this last week, drowned down in Miramar, and he would have been 21 years old this week, and it's just I've done this so much. It's such a tragedy that it just sickens you, because the number of deaths over the years we deal with. The water is just so dangerous. It's so dangerous, and we just deal with it again and again and again. And I don't know what to do. We're gonna continue trying education. I know South Walton Fire District works hard on it. Our staff, our beach patrol works hard on it. We try to tell people, we try to educate them, but man, the consequences are so severe, severe with that.
Yeah, they really are. And the county commission did vote to increase the fine, so the fine is $500 now. But that's not necessarily going to keep people out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is, there is some obviously personal responsibility in this, right? But I just think the more we can do to educate people, the better it is for them to understand the risk.
Sure. Sharon Vaughn says, great advice. Stay out of the store and off 331 on Saturdays. And for those that don't kind of get that advice, that's when everybody's checking in.
Yeah, check in, check out is Saturday morning. So
yeah.
you do not want to try and be in Publix or your Winn-Dixie's or Walmart's or whatever on those days. It's madness. And listen, it's people will call me and they go, I don't know, it took me an hour to get somewhere. This is not a surprise to you. Every year this is going to happen. I will help you. Next weekend it's going to be like that. The weekend after that it's going to be like that. And 2 months from now it's going to be like that. So you just got to start. This is a coastal community, a tourism season. You got to understand that.
Yeah, it's funny though. You do things so much that you almost get like complacent when things change.
Sure.
And you're like, what is this? Why is this changing? And we kind of get spoiled, when I travel to different areas, I'm like, I'm never complaining about traffic again. This is not that bad.
Right.
But I can see.
Well, I complain about it too.
Oh yeah.
So I do it every day.
Yeah.
Right? I drive about. I think I drive about 47,000 miles a year for work. Mm-hmm. So I'm on these roads in Walton County a whole bunch. So trust me, I understand.
And sometimes you're pulling people over.
Sometimes they get a hammer out in road rage incidences.
Tim Brooks says, why not put a dummy car on 331 near where they're going to put a light until they get a light? I think he's talking about the intersection of 331 Business. That intersection's been
a bad intersection.
It really is. And FDOT has said that they're putting a light there, but it might take a while.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we've tried to circle in some actual live deputies in there as well too. But we try to move those we try to use radar trailers, and we try to use dummy cars and move them around. So it's not a bad idea, and we're certainly not opposed to it. That's a dangerous intersection, man.
Yeah,
just really dangerous.
Beth Niblett says hello. She works in your jail. Dave Wilson, Houston area schools start spring break this weekend. Yikes! Occupancy is going to be 80% next week.
It'll be high.
So hold on to your hats. Jean Carlos says, is there any update? We talked about the watercolor party. We've talked about that. Angela Strassner.
Yeah. We had about 600 felonies that actually took precedence over some of that, I have to be honest with you, over the last year. Mm-hmm. So, about a year out on an open house party, we certainly want to continue to do something with it. But in the hierarchy of needs, people's lives come before that. So we're going to try and deal with these things best we can. And again, the last I heard, they were waiting on some information for some folks. But the charge of that, just so you know, would be a burglary with, we're not talking about armed home invasion robbery here. So
we're not talking about a home invasion.
Got to be careful about setting expectations for that.
Yeah.
And again, I think we talked about it even before. We've identified 100 plus of those kids, 150 plus of those kids. But because nothing was stolen other than a flip-flop, a purse, maybe a dress, those three things, you can't charge all those kids of that. We're not going to charge them. That's inappropriate. So.
And what's your thought process there? Because you have to be able to prove that they knew.
Well, the state's attorney's office, the first thing they said is you can't charge them for that. That's because there's an advertised party for a week. When you advertise something a week in advance, obviously somebody knew and invited these kids there. So you can't arrest people that got invited to a party because they didn't have permission to be in the house. Now, the person who we obviously want to find is the person that was responsible for charging or for organizing it and advertising it and sending out the flyers and sending out the notices of it. That was really all our concern. We have several arrests that are going to come out of that, but it's a question of who is the actual responsible party. And by the way, who told them that house was going to be empty in advance?
Yeah.
And they were sure enough it was going to be empty that they advertised it. So obviously there's some questions that need to be answered there, but we'll try, as long as they'll continue to cooperate and as long as can have some trails, we'll try and go after it. But just a lot more important things than that going on.
Yeah. Angela Sears, how about leaving the new crosswalk lights blinking 24/7 on Scenic Gulf at the new public beach access? So many cars come barreling up that hill. Perhaps keeping it on would slow them down.
So I have to be 100% honest with you. I'm not even sure who controls that. I think it's the county on Old Scenic Gulf.
I think it's the county.
And I don't know if there's a turtle lighting regulation or not, but you know what?
There is at night.
That may be what the issue is. But we certainly can follow up and ask about that. I don't know the answer to
that. James Walker, in regards to the speeder going over 90 miles an hour, did he get a ticket? Also, how much over the posted speed limit can you get arrested?
Well, all those. So let's talk about all those are mandatory court offenses. They're like an arrest. So a criminal citation is an arrest. And we caught multiple people going over 90. That just happened to be the one that we put on the internet. We literally have caught several like that. So they're all going to see a judge.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not they keep their license or what that fine looks like, that depends what the judge does with them.
Yeah. So,
but no, they didn't walk away from that without something that's not going to leave a mark.
Yeah. And what he's asking is, how much over the speed limit do you have to be going to get
So
an
if you
MTA?
start going over 30 miles an hour, the posted speed limit, you're going to see a judge.
Yeah. Yeah. Justin Jackson, what about Uber, Lyft drivers running around with blue lights? I have had 2 in the last 2 weeks come up behind me or kind of startle me at first, but realized it wasn't a police vehicle.
So nobody can have a blue light in their car but law enforcement of the state of Florida. So if you see somebody with a blue light, if it's Uber, Lyft, or whoever, if you can get a tag or you get a description, just call the sheriff's office immediately or the highway patrol, depending on where you're at, and we need to stop that vehicle. They can absolutely, by law, cannot have a blue light in their car.
And Justin, just for my edification, are you talking about the sign that says Uber or Lyft? It looks blue, or are you talking about like they're flashing blue lights at you?
Yeah, you can't. If they cannot have blue lights.
Yeah.
In their car.
Because I do get pretty distracted because they have it in their front windshield, which for safety purposes, I get it. Like they want the people who they're picking up to know that they're Uber or Lyft, but they have to be a certain color. They can't be blue.
It can't be blue.
Kristen Kress. Okay. John Mason. To reiterate other questions, we've addressed that one. Marie Brown is asking about illegal immigrants. What is our status on illegal immigrants?
Not sure I understand the question. So what happens with illegal immigration? If you're arrested and you're an illegal immigrant, what happens at Walton County Sheriff's Office? You go to jail. We notify ICE, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, and we say, is there a detainer? Will you come pick this person up? By law, they have to issue a detainer for us to hold them. If they don't issue a detainer, come on, we can't hold them. The sheriff from Monroe County, there's several sheriffs actually have tried to hold them. They got hit with $1 million and $2 million lawsuits for improperly holding them. You have to have a detainer. They have to tell us not to release them because a lot of these people have been released at the border, or they're granted like a summons, not even a criminal summons, to show up later. So we don't have any real say in that. We try to hold them, we notify them, but they have got to come get them. So that's really the short version of that.
Yeah. Sergeant Bennett's watching. He said, I'd like to address walking between patrol vehicles, and the vehicle they've pulled over happens several times this week. And why that's dangerous.
Yeah, it's exceedingly dangerous for our deputies. We don't know who's walking up, so people feel that they, I don't know what this is about walking in between the cars or walking up to an officer while they're conducting a traffic stop. It's incredibly dangerous. And I'll tell you, one of our deputies got clipped by a car on Chat Holly the night at a high rate of speed, hit one of our canine officers, hit his belt, thank God. It did not injure him, flying down the road. And so, yeah, it's incredibly dangerous. But going back to the main traffic stop, for deputies out conducting a traffic stop, please don't walk up on them because you're distracting their attention. And you go, well, you know that you're a good law-abiding citizen. You just want to ask where the ice cream shop's at. That's the murder suspect on, we stopped on 98 3 weeks ago. Cannot divide our attention. Let us deal with that and then get through with that and then, flag the deputy down from there.
Yeah. Corey Davis, any update on the trailer that was found in Point Washington State Park? I have an update on that. I'm not sure, you probably don't know about this, but FWC ended up charging a couple people who parked a trailer in Point Washington State Park. FWC was working with Department of Ag to try to move that trailer. I'm not sure if they've moved it yet, but the last I knew, Lieutenant Sheik was taking care of it. So Corey, just hit me up and I'll get an update from Lieutenant Sheik. Rio is asking if there is still a curfew on 30A, particularly in Watercolor.
So so the sheriff's office doesn't do curfews, right? So any curfew is done by an individual private property owner. Mm-hmm. And what they're basically, as private property owners, they can decide when somebody can and can't be on their property. So I don't know what the current ones, or if there is a current one at any of these communities, that's their responsibility to notify people on the property. But the sheriff's office actually doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And somebody on YouTube's asking if we can upload more body camera and virtual ride-alongs to YouTube. Love to. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll
I will get on it. I like the idea of a virtual ride-along. That sounds good. Yeah. Sal wants to know who do we contact if stop signs are down?
The Board of County Commissioners, Public Works, and if you'll tell them what signs, and by the way, the same thing is true of lights out, anything like that. If we see them, we try to notify them as well, but they're the ones responsible for getting that done.
Sure.
But we would want to know. So if you call into dispatch and tell us, we'll make a list. We'll shoot it over to the Board of County Commissioners and let them know. The stop sign, obviously, that's dangerous. You don't want somebody running through it.
Yeah. And Sal, just send us an email, pio@waltonso.org, and we'll send it to somebody at the county, and they'll get on it. And they're usually very quick about it. Patty Tate, what are the rules about drinking on the beach this spring break? I think that this is a misconception because in Panama City Beach,
we've never had any. Just no glass containers. I mean, there's no.
In Bay County right now, you are not allowed to drink alcohol on the sandy beach. But in Walton County,
there's never been a restriction in Walton County in regard to that.
No, in Walton County, there is no restriction. Jordan, as long as you're of age, we should probably say that. As long as you're of age, I feel like we need to say that. Yeah. Jordan Oro, what are your preparations for spring break crowds next week at Seaside?
We're going to have just a whole bunch of people working. And as I said earlier, you're going to have people on bikes, you're going to have people on foot, you're going to have people on patrol and golf cart. But understand, there are going to be huge, massive crowds of screaming, yelling kids. That is a fact. And so nothing's going to change about that. It's our ability to try and just keep them out of mischief to the best of our ability, which is what we're going to be working on. For us, it's a little bit different because we actually like to have the kids in one area instead of driving them into the streets. So if you close a common area, for instance, you go, well, I don't want them on the beach. Well, if you drive them off the beach and their parents are letting them walk around, where are they going? And so what happens with 13, 14, 15-year-olds, guess what? They run around and do silly stuff. And that's actually a bigger problem. It's actually easier for us to manage them if there was an area for them to have activities, that would be much better than us just continually running them from different areas. But we're going to have a lot of people out working, but I just don't want to mislead anybody because it's going to be busy. It's going to be loud. There's going to be traffic. There's going to be kids screaming, and that is a fact of life when you live down here.
Yeah. Jordan Steele says, are you hiring?
Yes, we are. We are hiring firefighter, EMT, paramedics. We're hiring deputy sheriffs. We're hiring detention deputies. We're hiring dispatchers. Am I forgetting anybody? Animal control.
We're hiring actually several civilian positions too.
Yeah, we're hiring.
And all available on our website, waltonso.org. Yeah. But yes, we're hiring a bunch of different positions.
Because everybody's having to work mandatory overtime would really like if there was more people working right now. Trust me.
Yes, and I think that's not just law enforcement though. I think that's across the board.
It's true. I mean, it's true.
A lot of different people are hiring. Ricky Carnley, I got to admit, going into the sheriff, that I'm not familiar with this incident, but I will be up to speed on it after this. He says on Monday, a live alligator was found tied to a tree close to the end of Imperial Court of Caswell Road. Deputy came out, game wardens came out. There's a lot of activity as usual on this dead end street called Imperial Court. What is being done about all this?
So I wasn't even familiar with that call, to be honest with you. I don't think Corey and I either one had heard about it. I'll just have to check in that, see what's going on with it.
And our district lieutenants frequently watch this, and Lieutenant
James
Pittman.
Pittman is the district lieutenant there. So obviously, when we get off here, we'll ask him what the stats. But I will tell you, I know for a fact that we had to go out there and do some evictions down there this last 2 weeks of squatters that we were trying to deal with. So we've actually been down that area here fairly in the last week or so doing some stuff.
Sure. Chris May Bishop is asking, what's the approximate number, if you know, of accidental drug overdoses in this county?
I don't know where we're at today. I just have to be honest with you. I'm not sure. And when you say overdoses for us, that doesn't mean deaths. So an overdose is, we've delivered Narcan. I think, man, I wouldn't even want to tell you for sure right now where we're at today. It's significant. It's significant. It's significant.
Rio Banjo Man, our spring breakers. Oh, we've asked and answered that one. Adam Silver, has the driver from the dump truck been arrested? I think is he talking about the crash on 98? Yeah. I'm actually not sure about that. Florida Highway Patrol works a lot of our crashes. So they would be...
And that would be a commercial vehicle trooper as well, too. So I just don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Chaz Galloway is asking, when can the citizens of Walton County expect to see a full beard again on our sheriff?
Going to be a hot minute.
Because it's hot outside. Can we talk about that?
It's going to be a minute.
It has not felt wintry lately.
No.
Adam Danny...
Chaz is pushing me, man, because I feel old. I like Santa Claus.
John Mason's asking if we can publicly flog parents of children. Unfortunately, no, not anymore. Scott Crompton, drag racing on the 331 bridge. That's what it.
Yeah,
that's
if you've
what
been
it's
watching,
like.
We've been lighting them up lately. So that we have absolutely happened on the way. There is somebody working that pretty heavy. Pretty heavy.
And Jessica Marie Mason said, "Thank you so much for stopping speeders. It's been a big problem." D. Pippin says, "Sheriff, thank you for all the great work you and your people doing. I'm proud to live in Walton County.
It's a great place to live."
And Joe T says, Chat Holly's getting dangerous, especially with the dump trucks. You know what I noticed the other day?
That's where our deputy was hit out the other day. So
he was hit on Chat Holly doing traffic stops.
While doing traffic stops, was hit on Chat Holly.
Yeah.
We haven't caught that individual yet, too, so we're still looking for him.
Yeah. And Michael Crinklaw is asking, can you please run traffic on 285? I've gotten that a lot lately, and I think that 285 is in the north end, yes?
No, there's 285 in the south down here as well, too.
Okay, so that's where I'm getting confused. I don't know if people are asking us to run traffic on 285, like going through Eglin and Oglala, or if they're talking about 285 down here. But I know that they're hot and heavy right now. They're in overdrive, no pun intended. Yeah. Meadows is asking, any plans to deal with the illegal modification of exhaust that is plaguing South Walton?
No, but I will say, not when I say no, I mean no, we haven't planned on that, haven't been a topic of discussion. But there are laws about what it can be as far as the loudness from the vehicle. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the other things you can do with that, and I think there's something, if you tell us, if you know the tag number, we can actually send somebody to talk to them instead of just necessarily writing them a ticket for loud exhaust, right? Mm-hmm. Stop and say, look, hey, here's your warning. You report us having loud exhaust. Can you please, get this taken care of? So it's perfectly okay to do that. Call and say, hey, this is the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. We send somebody to call and say,
what are the laws about that?
Yeah, it can't be audible for a certain number of feet. I mean, or it can't run straight pipes off a motor. I mean, there's just, basically it can't be obscenely loud, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Elizabeth Parker says, I've already seen your presence in Seagrove Beach, near One Seagrove in the woods. Thank you.
Good.
Patty Tate says, thank you for all you do. Yolanda Decker says, why don't we have the prisoners working at the landfill unloading people's trailers anymore? We truly appreciated them.
Yeah, so we try to keep as much staff out there as we can, but they have to meet certain criteria. I know you find this hard to believe, but sometimes our inmates get up to mischief, and we have to be careful that they are not
color me
doing
surprised.
Things. Yeah, they're not doing something inappropriate, and then we have to have the staff to get them out and manage them. So as much as we can, we try to put people out, but they have to meet certain criteria that's incumbent upon us by law. So a lot of things have changed over the last few years about what you can and can't do with some of this stuff.
They basically have to be vetted.
Yeah, they have to be vetted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a slew of, we had 5 or 6 of them that came back from and had meth on them. Guess what? That's a problem for us. So then you introduce meth into our jail. So it's a little bit of a work to keep them there.
Yeah.
But we try to do that as much as we can.
Yeah, and listen, they help out with cemeteries. They help out cutting grass. They do a good service.
Just so you understand, Walton County puts out more work crews than Okaloosa County. Okaloosa County is about triple our size, close to it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible that we get as much work out of those inmate crews as we do.
Judy Brewer, why doesn't the turn lane light change from red to green throughout the night coming from 98 by Terramar Apartments? I've sat there for 3 weeks and it won't change. There's no way to turn there at all, even coming the other way, turning to go to Walmart.
I honestly don't know the answer to that, but that's a DOT question, but we can shoot that quick. DOT has their regional website, which is in Chipley.
It's out of Chipley.
Region 1 DOT, Department of Transportation, and shoot them that question. We'll do it as well too, but I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. And Ian Satter is the PIO over there. He's fantastic. They have a Twitter account. They have a Facebook page. I think it's District 3, FDOT District 3.
No, they're District 1. You're in District 1.
All right. Let's double check that.
Get publicly shamed here on the.
I'm gonna check it
for 16
I don't
years.
Get
I
people
said District 1.
No, it's District 3.
So
it's District 3.
Shamed.
You're thinking about SAO. You're thinking about the state's attorney's office, right?
No, I was thinking that was DOT too.
No, it's District 3.
I appreciate you trying to throw me a life preserver there, but
I'm trying to save you.
I knew it was DOT.
Save him.
I knew it was district office. So.
But yeah, they've got a Twitter account. They've got Facebook. They're very receptive.
Wrong again.
No, it's okay. You're not wrong. You're just misinformed.
Hold on, I'm pretty wrong.
Okay, yeah. So Judy, just send them a message. We could put you in touch with them certainly. Morgan Lee, what plans do you have for the Art in the Park program that has been launched by WCSO in the future? I think it would be a wonderful program for our community. I appreciate all you do and would like to be a part of it. Morgan, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, you know what? So Lieutenant Mark Wendell is really, Lieutenant Wendell has just really spearheaded that and taken it such a cool project. We'd love to expand it. We'd love to expand it throughout the county.
We're at Eagle Springs today.
Yeah, we're at Eagle Springs.
Ohana was at Eagle Springs today. Tomorrow they're doing the dugouts at We Care Park in Defuniak.
Pretty awesome.
But reach out to us, Morgan, and we'll put you in touch with Lieutenant Wendell.
And we're trying to get these, we're trying to get the cameras up at all the parks. So what I've told
they're popping up.
Oh yeah. At Board of County Commissioners, I've tried to explain we're going to put cameras up at all the parks to cut down on vandalism. It just takes you can't do it tomorrow. We're moving as fast as we can. The new one behind Dune Lakes, Helen McCall, but Helen McCall's having some work done, so we can't get the permanent cameras up there. But we're Driftwood, we're just trying to get as many cameras as we can. Same thing in the north end. We did good luck with them at We Care. Mm-hmm. So those will help protect our parks.
Yeah, and that program really is helpful for 2 reasons: to stop greedy and vandalism, but also, how cool is it for the kids?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
They get scholarships from local businesses, the winners, and they get to.
And I love, if you've been in Defuniak Springs lately, if you look at all the murals that are in downtown Defuniak, it looks fab. There's one on Kim Winterberg's business back over there. That's just it's like the greatest mural on the side over there, and then one on the side of the CC Bank, and there is really some neat stuff going on in Defuniak.
We just put a mural in our jail.
Yeah,
and it looks fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah. I had one lined up here. A lot of people, you got to give us a minute to catch up on questions. Sheriff likes to talk. We like to talk. So give us a second. If we haven't asked your question yet, we're getting there. Riley Peacock wants to know.
Not speed up.
Riley Peacock wants to know, hello again. If you were on a winning football team with Burt Reynolds, what position would you be playing?
Dude, Burt. That's what I'm talking
Burt Reynolds,
about.
like longest yard stuff.
Oh, longest yard for sure.
Let's go.
Sure.
What position would you be playing?
The one that requires the least amount of intelligence and the most hard head. So probably like a middle linebacker, right? That was Dick Butkus in the longest yard, by the way. I remember
Butkus.
that.
What a word.
Yeah.
What a name. Okay,
awesome.
Nick Harrison is asking, is Artie Rodriguez still incarcerated?
No, bonded out.
Okay. And then where does that process go from here? So if he is bonded out, he was granted a bond.
It's the same process that applies to everybody else. If they're granted a bond, they will now start the legal proceeding between the state's attorney's office and the suspect's defense.
Yeah.
Start that whole process of determining how that moving through the judicial system. The sheriff's office hands are out of it. Once that happens, once we make an arrest, we don't have any control how long somebody stays in jail, when they bond. And we get that a lot. People call us like, why did you let them out? Why did you do this? We civics is something we need to go back and talk about in our
we need
high
civics
schools.
class. I loved my civic class.
Yeah, we don't have any control of that once there's a release. And so some people stay in jail for a long time, depending on what the bond is. Other people bond immediately. Some people don't even go back because they have a preset bond and they're released. And that's, quite frankly, a lot of folks. And so a lot of it just depends on how much the bond is and what the charge is, and then whether or not they have private counsel versus public counsel. But it's the judicial system once we go from there.
Austin Orrs wants to know, are we getting the traffic lights fixed on the I-10 exits off 331? There isn't lights at I-10 and 331.
There's not, but boy, there sure ought to be.
They retweet.
Yeah, there
agree,
ought to be one.
100%. Those are some sketchy off ramps trying to get onto 331.
Big time.
Mark Harris is asking, why is the jail lobby locked at 4:30 now? I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Oh, Mark, that's a good question. And I thought we got you a key, by the way. So you ought to be able to get up in there. But I will ask John Mooring. Mark, I'll just give me a call, or we'll figure that out. I'll tell you what the reason for it is.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
And then Michael Crinklaw says the 285 that runs through Eglin. That was the one he was talking about. Yeah. But morning between 5:30 to 7 is horrible. And I'll let our Lieutenant Pittman know, and I am in constant communication with our traffic units, so they're giving me good stuff. Firecracker on YouTube is asking if you know how to do the dab.
I got nothing.
His daughter is signaling, do not try to do the dab.
Don't worry. That won't happen.
Trish Day, there's been a community debate about the right turn lane off Mac Bayou. There is a solid white line. Should we still stop and look, or just go and assume oncoming traffic?
Solid white line, stop.
Okay. People are very angry about those who stop, but it is so dangerous there.
Solid white line means stop.
Okay. Steve Sunday is watching. Hi, Steve.
Steve's still trying to beat me out of a retirement check.
Aw. Steve is working on those cold cases, and I'm trying to help him out. When will the body camera footage from the officer-involved shooting be released? That's from Alex Schley.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so once the state attorney's office releases their press release, which should come out tomorrow, we will make the body camera footage available, and then we'll release it on our end. So that's the one from November, though. The other one that happened on Interstate 10 is still in court, so that one won't be released until that's resolved. John,
those two shootings are pretty quick together.
Yeah.
So.
John McClellan, what about cameras at the beach accesses?
100% agree. Needs to be more cameras there.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a number on every beach access. The fact there, and I've said this to the board really multiple times. I need to go back. So Corey, you need to remind me or Allie, if you're listening, those beach signs 100% should have numbers on them. Big numbers, like 1, 2, 3, because nobody knows if they're at Fort Panic or if they're at
Ed
Walleen or whatever. If you don't live here, you don't know that. And so when you say, I need help, where am I at? There's too much writing. With all due respect to our friends at the TDC, there's too much writing on those signs. It's too small. It gets lost. But the most important thing is you need to know which exit you're at. So that and the cameras, we're working on these cameras. The next place getting cameras, if I have something to say about it, is Chat Holly Road, because Chat Holly, we need some stuff over there as well.
Yeah.
But yes, the long way around this is we need cameras at every beach access. But we need those numbers. I'm glad he brought that up because I hadn't thought about that in a while. So, Corey, if you'll,
I will.
Or Lindsay, somebody remind me when we get out of here.
And I hate to bring up Bay County, but I live there, and they have big numbers on every single one of their beach accesses.
You can't expect all your people to. I don't know if you've looked at a sign. There's just too much writing on it.
Yeah.
Way too much.
Alex Schley wants to know, when was the officer clipped by the car? That was Sunday night.
Sunday night, on Chat Holly.
Yeah, on Chat Holly. And the reason I didn't put that out was because we really didn't have clear video of the vehicle.
Yeah, we didn't have good video of the vehicle. It was dark. There's a lot of.
But please move over if you see law enforcement pulled over. Meadows says, we appreciate the Walton County Sheriff's Office. You guys are the bomb. Lived all over the U.S. Best sheriff's office I've seen. Hernandez family, what's going on in Defuniak Springs on Lake Rosemary Circle? I have no idea. At this hour, while we're live, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Is Lake Rosemary in the city?
Yes.
Yes. So Defuniak Springs, police department might know.
It's a medical assist call.
It's a medical assist call. Lindsay's on it. She's already on it. Ricky Carnley says, I have a professional surveillance system installed on my property. It shows some of Imperial Court and Caswell Road. If you sheriff's deputies ever need to see it, I hold it for 18 days.
So yes, we would love to.
we'd love
and
to.
then, by the way, I'll put that. We hadn't said this in a while, but not only do we have our own cameras out, we've always asked that if you have a camera system to let us, if you want us to, we don't need to be on your computer or look at anything like that. But we like to know if you have a camera, there's a form to fill out on our website so that we know in case something happens, just like this, we can go back and go, hey, Mr. Connolly, you have a camera. Can you look at this night and tell me what happened? We have a lot of citizens that do that in different areas. But I need to put that out again. So if you have a camera, we'd love to know that you have it if you want to tell us so that we can, in case something happens in the area.
Yeah. Lindsay, do you mind putting that link in the comments? Lindsay's on it. She's getting on it. Great. She's commenting to the people.
It's a multi-person operation to keep me on between the rails here. So
Yeah. And James Pittman, hi LT, he's watching. FWC responded and they took the Alligator.
yeah.
So investigations on Imperial Court. So I'm
of
sorry,
war
I'm just
does that
catching
too,
up.
though?
I'm catching up on all of this. Patrick Hancock says police call boxes at beach accesses would be a big help.
Call boxes wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with that. But the number one thing is we need to know you need to know where you're at sign wise. Really, as far as and I know the TDC is not going to like this, but that's not really the business I'm in. Is one, a number, two, the flags. Everything else wasted everybody's time, as far as I'm concerned. But I have different concerns than they do. So
Yeah. Christy Broom, new to Defuniak, welcome. Can dogs be on the beach in Walton County?
you have to get a permit, and there's certain times, but you get a beach permit. Your dog can be out there in the late afternoons. But yeah, if you go to the clerk of court, I think clerk of court does, or the BCCs do it now.
Board of County Commissioners.
The Board of County Commissioners does it now. Yeah.
Dave Wilson, in terms of hiring, what is the process for out-of-state officers?
So Florida recruits pretty heavily for out of state. If you'll send in an email into HR, let them know that you are an out-of-state certified officer. Actually, Florida's paying hiring bonuses as well right now to help pay with the cost to move. Governor DeSantis authorized a $5,000, and the legislature authorized a $5,000 hiring bonus to help assist you. It's a 2-week transition course. We put people to work while that's going on, and then from there, you're off to the races.
Awesome.
Send your email to HR. Let them know who you are and that you're a certified officer out of state and you're interested in relocating. And then they'll get you. The application is actually online, but would work better to start with an email. In fact, if you'll email Tyler Noble, right? See, I think I
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Tyler Noble in recruiting and HR, he will get you fixed up, or call and ask to speak with him.
Yeah. Jolene Pence, I registered my cameras, but I also filled out the form for a sign with a house number. I haven't heard anything and they haven't put it up. Is it a long waiting list? I will have Lindsay, that's actually a Walton County Fire Rescue program, and it's fantastic. Jolene, just send Lindsay some information if she hasn't already reached out to you.
Yeah. In fact, we need to make sure there's no backlog on that as well, too.
Yeah.
And as long as we're talking about programs, I want to go back to Handle with Care, because Handle with Care, for most of you, I think know or maybe have heard us talk about this before. One of the things we want to avoid is when we have people in our community who maybe have some challenges that you as a parent are aware of, where they may not respond to a law enforcement interaction in what is perceived to be a normal way, or may cause some reactions, for lack of a better way of putting, or again, maybe an abnormal way of responding. We can help diffuse that situation if we know. And we have a sticker. We register these programs called Handle with Care. So we will register your vehicle in our system so that if a deputy comes in contact with that vehicle, they know that little Johnny, little Susie, her situation may have some special challenges and may respond a certain way or may be more afraid of law enforcement from that standpoint. It's a great program. We also, if you are not ambulatory, you have some issues where you maybe can't walk in your house, or you need us to check on what's going on in your house. If we come to the door and you're not there, we can register your address as handled with care. So these are all it just gives us a little bit of more information to take a little bit of extra time in dealing with you.
Yeah.
So great program. You can register on our website, waltonso.org.
Yeah.
And I am killing it with the websites and names.
Nailed it. Again.
I am so normally not good at that.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scroll back up here because I love this so much.
Yeah.
Justin Jackson, Ohana Limousine, which is the company I own.
Okay.
All of our vehicles also have in-car cameras capturing both exterior and interior if we ever needed to use them. So
we really need you to, if you would take, we love that. If you would take the time to register that with us so that we know that you have it, that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. It can help a lot.
Great. And then Dave is saying, if anyone needs professional camera systems, call me. See, we're opening it up for everybody here. Rick Carnley says, I appreciate y'all. We need more deputies everywhere. And we really do.
We're working on it.
We really do. Yeah.
Working on it.
Dawson Alexander, I wish I could go body surfing like I did in the past. Double red flags. I get that's not for everyone. I've been watched by a deputy for 10 minutes and he drove off. I've surfed in California, been in big waves during tropical storms and on my kayak. It used to be.
Yeah, you used to be able to, with a bodyboard and leash or surfboard and leash, do that. So I wasn't familiar that had even changed, quite frankly. So
I'm not sure that
it has changed.
Okay. I think that you have to have.
You have to have the leash and you have to have the board.
You have to have a floating device.
Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure. But if he's talking about body surfing, he may not. You may not have a float. If the deputy is watching you, that's probably because they're concerned. Double red flags are, and like Sheriff Adkinson said, Mother Nature is not forgiving. Right. It's dangerous, but yeah, let me look at that. I don't think that's changed. I think you could still surf as long as you have a leash.
I'm actually pretty sure it hadn't, but
yeah.
The board doesn't always. We don't always talk about some of these changes. So sometimes they change things that we don't know.
Yeah. Sheriff, we're caught up on questions. We've got about over 150 viewers. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? I kind of wanted to talk about our helicopter and where we are with that. We've partnered with Air Methods to get a helicopter here. They're providing the helicopter for us.
Absolutely.
And we are providing flight medics.
Absolutely correct.
And then they're going to train our flight medics.
Yeah, and there's going to be some next, again, it's a higher level of certification than even our normal paramedics, which is a great high rating. But then the the flight medics will be even higher. So, we're grateful with Air Methods is for helping provide this additional training. We're getting staff hired up. And so one of the things they've agreed to do is they're going to cover the crews until we get time to hire the appropriate crews, right? Because we don't just hire anybody to do that. You got to meet certain standards. And so, it's a great opportunity. But I think when you partner with what we're doing at Walton County Fire Rescue, I think our service is second to none. I mean, again, it was the top one in the state for this issue. We're one of only 10 accredited fire rescue agencies with medical side in the state of Florida. There's 20 million people in this state, and Walton County Fire Rescue is only one till you get about to Tampa.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So that helicopter will hopefully help with transport times and
until we can get a hospital or an emergency room here. Yeah, Is it the ideal situation? No. Is it the best we can do right now? Absolutely. You can't let perfect be the enemy of better.
Yeah.
Some guy named Rousseau said that.
Ricky says, thanks for sharing a live feed. It's a great thing to do. And keep busting drug dealers in North Walton.
Try 'em.
That is our Vice Narcotics unit doing work. Christopher Snyder says, please continue to do this. Sheena is asking, if someone has committed check fraud from a deceased person's bank account they are not on, would we file a report in the county we live in or the county they live in?
The county in which it occurred. But go ahead and just start with where you're at, where you live, call your local agency, and then we'll go from there. And they'll work out the jurisdictional issue, because there's a lot of different issues about where the checks are passed and where the fraud occurred and all that. But just start with the county you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Dawson Alexander said he wasn't using a flotation device. He was free swimming. So that might have been a cause for concern.
You can't body surf that. You're going to have that flotation device.
Yeah. Boogie board, surfboard, whatever, as long as it has a leash. Great. Okay. So we're caught up. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk
we
about?
kind of went over a lot. I mean, I was just trying to think
really hit
of
a lot of
what
different
we
things.
missed.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think we missed anything. We talked about a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, we don't want to wait as long as we have.
Coming.
Yeah. We're going to be busy. That's the other thing, right? So, we'll be back in a couple of weeks deep in the heart of spring break, and we'll see how we're going at that point. But, we try not to put too much time and distance between these so that we keep you up to date and informed. Sometimes things happen, we get busy and whatnot, but we're glad to do it. We're glad for the opportunity to serve, and we will be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Corey, does that work? Ms. Nancy, you good? Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.